Lakers were back at it. It was all Clippers, plus 15 in threes, plus 12 in the paint. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard did their thing. Lakers a little sloppy as expected, 19 turnovers.
A little rusty, 19 turnovers. Quick turnaround after 71 days of being out of the playoffs. You know, it's a new season. You know, and the Clippers have a new attitude. The Lakers obviously are trying to blend those players together, the 4 new starters, and they were a little rusty. You expected the Clippers to come out. You know, Paul George is going to be a problem, along with Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers know what they have to do. They'll look at some video and, you know, try to come back the next game. But it's only one game. But the Clippers, they have a new attitude, and they have a lot more to prove tonight. So hats off to the Clippers. They played a great game, and, you know, the Lakers have to pick up and go from here.
Yeah, one game. I like that perspective, that reminder we got from Kevin Harlan during the broadcast tonight. You know, after losing to the Clippers a season ago, as you mentioned, dropping that opening night, the Lakers went on to win 24. They went 24-3 in their first 27 games. And I think it was a lot of what we expected coming into tonight, all the circumstances. It's the reality. It is not an excuse. The Clippers showed up and did what they were supposed to do. I think that's an element we can't forget, was that there's a lot of motivation on their side as well, given how things went for them last season, a season ago. And they came out and they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, you look at the big 4 in this game, the 2 superstars for both teams, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, combining for 59 points. Paul George, 13 of 18. LeBron James with 22, 7 of 17. Slow start, but got it going. AD, 18 points, 8 of 15, and 7 rebounds. End of the third quarter kind of sticks out to me, guys. Lakers, up to that point with about 2 minutes and 27 seconds left, they were right there. Many chances to take the lead, could never do it. Luke Kennard hits a shot, and then Paul George goes on a 10-0 run. Just like that, Allie, the quarter ends, and the Clippers are up 11 points.
Look, I think Frank told us yesterday what we all need to keep in mind. There are going to be some ugly moments. There are going to be some ugly nights. And I think the moments tonight that stood out, particularly to end that third quarter, also to end the first quarter, stretches and runs in which they could have taken advantage, and instead it went against their favor. I think when you look at a guy like Paul George, we have to remember, you said that he's going to be a problem. The narrative about Paul George has never been about who he is in the regular season. It's always about what happens when it matters most in the postseason. Yeah. That's where he has struggled. And so to see what he was able to do, you point to those 10 straight points. He is a superstar in this league. He is one of the best two-way players in this league. His ability to score in the ways in which he can score. We saw it tonight in the home opener for him, or the opening night game for him. He did what he was supposed to do. Reminded us who he was.
Before we get to the ring ceremony, because we do want to talk about some positives that came out of tonight, the Lakers getting their championship rings, I want to talk Lakers defense. And I don't want to talk a lot about last year, but it is so fresh because it just happened literally like 6 weeks ago. We said it in the pregame show, this is a different team, different style, some new personnel. You lost some defensive-minded guys. I think, James, we were used to that Laker team really being able to lock in. We only saw glimpses of it tonight, maybe in the second and third quarter. But first quarter, fourth quarter, Lakers kind of struggled defensively, and I think that's where they're going to have to improve the most and tighten it up.
I think they'll get in sync. You know, they lost a couple of players to Dwight Howard, McGee, you know, shot blockers.
Avery Bradley.
Avery Bradley was a perimeter assassin. So, yeah, those are the things that, you know, even though they are multi-talented and they brought in 4 new fresh players, those are the type of things that you're going to have to, you know, work on as a team. Because when you lose, you know, players, you bring in other players, you know, offensively is easy. Defensively, the communication, I think that's where Marc Gasol will come in. Shooter's a pretty good defensive player. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but they're going to have to figure out how to get in sync defensively. Also, when you have Paul George as hot as he was, there's really no defense for that. But the Lakers, you know, they have some improvement. They know they're going to have to work on some things, and so that's going to be their challenge on the defensive end.
You know, they often say, though, that it's not, when it comes to the defensive end of the floor, it's not about the size per se, though that was a luxury for the Lakers last season and they made that work. It's all about what's inside. And I actually think that the Lakers have a lot of dogs. They have a lot of defensive-minded guys. But to your point, it's going to take some time to put it all together on that end of the floor, the communication, having your legs, having your wind, and having that be a strong backbone. Because I would actually argue that of the positive things tonight that you were able to take away, it's that when the Lakers dive into themselves and really dig deep, they're going to be a strong defensive team. That will be their identity yet again this season.
All right, guys, after the shortest offseason in NBA history, literally, the Lakers received their 2019-2020 championship ring.
Vogel some difficult decisions to make because of his play this preseason. He logged over 31 minutes a game, shooting well above 50% in three-point percentage and field goal percentage. This week, head coach Frank Vogel talked about what sort of role we could see from the preseason phenom.
We're a ball movement team, so whether he's out there with Bron or AD, he still gets the ball on second side action and has shown to be very effective with that. And obviously what he was able to do in the preseason games with those guys out has been very impressive. So we like what he brings to the table. If we're asked to lean on him as a primary scorer or playmaker, like we did in some of those preseason games, but he definitely has shown that he can be effective, off of playing off of other guys as well.
So THT was the MVP of the preseason. It was a lot of fun, but now the real thing is here. He's 20 years old. He's on the deepest team in the league, the defending champions. Should we temper expectations? Should we practice patience, or what do you think, James?
Well, you definitely have to practice patience. I mean, even though he's had a great showcase in preseason and a little bit in the bubble when he had his chance, he is the real deal. And so teams will start to pay attention to him, and they will start to, strategize and scout against him and have game plans against him to make it a little bit more difficult. But he has so many skills and so much talent and can do so many things, Peter. You see there, shooting from deep. He gets to the cup very well. But one thing's going to make it difficult to stop him is he really understands the angles and how to use his body to use that as a guard while he gets his shot off. 7-foot wingspan. You don't expect him to stretch out like he does. Difficult to defend. And on the defensive end, he's pretty good matchup for most guards. So, yeah, he's got to play. He's the real deal.
Look, I think you can only be safe with yourself when you talk about tempering expectations, because at the end of the day, he's still a young player in this
20.
league. And the reality is he's going to make mistakes. That's the beautiful part about having to evolve and be as great when it comes to the years that you continue to put in. But I think at the end of the day, what he showed us the most in the preseason, and I think we even saw it in that Houston series during the playoffs, was just his composure and his poise. Do you know how many players and how long it takes them for the game to just seem slow and yet be able to succeed and excel? And that's something we're seeing very early with Talen Horton-Tucker, and that's rare. That's special.
Yeah, listen, Vogel has confidence in him. We saw it. You just mentioned the Houston series. I don't know what's going to happen in this rotation, but I know the young man passes the eye test. I know he's fearless. He's got the body, and he's going to be a player. So we'll see. I'm sure Frank is going to use him at some point. All right, to get you ready for tonight with all the new Laker additions, let's take a look at the Lakers. First, take a shot.
AD, first year here, last year, wins a championship, signs for 5 years. He knows where his home is. Plus, he loves the weather. Can't beat the weather. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he takes control of leadership. Not that LeBron's still the leader, but it's going to be interesting to see how he takes control of this team, put him on his back, defensive player. He wants to get Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't get it last year. So it's going to see how his attitude starts the engine at the beginning of the season.
Love the pick. What about for you, Allie?
I'm on the Kuz bus, going with Kyle Kuzma. Kuz is a champion. He got a well-earned contract. But that's all behind you. Go out and be you, Kyle Kuzma. This team has given you support. They believe in you. They say that you are a huge piece to what they want to do, and that's bring another championship, the 18th one this season. He's a big piece of that.
Third leading scorer on a championship team. That's what he was last year. All right, Brez, what about for you?
Schroeder said a few weeks ago he wanted to start for this team. It looks like that is going to happen. Not quite official yet, but I want to see what he can do as the highest scoring reserve in the NBA last season. Almost 19 points a game for Schroeder.
Who you got, Gator?
Montrezl Harrell. Rivalry against his old team.